one more time. Okay, that's working. And Kelly, I would love if you can introduce yourself. Alexa, we still don't see the
You have to allow me to screen share.
I gotcha. There we go. Hopefully that works. Kelly, it's so much better if you introduce yourself rather than me trying to take a stab at your many accomplishments. So please take it away.
Well, oh my goodness. Gosh, how do I even begin? Well, I've been an actress for, gosh, 35 years, I guess. So for a while, probably longer than most of you have been alive. And I just recently got involved in a startup called Wiser, which is a social media app for knowledge and expertise, where creators can monetize their expertise and we can share what we're learning about. So it's really wonderful. So just started doing that, still acting, still doing that. I'm a mother of two, a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old. And yeah, that's it. So
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on.
Oh, it's so good to see you.
I know, I haven't seen you in so long, and I know that it's late there. So just honored that you're here. And I want to just jump in really quick before we get into the PowerPoint that I think for this one, we're going to have people ask. So raise your hand during it, like after every slide, if there's questions, because it's so late where she is, so that we don't have to do like a full Q&A at the end. So as questions come, or even if you have them now, put them in the chat box. And after every single slide, we'll go through it. So also make sure, tag this on social media and we'll repost it and whatnot. So we'll get right into it. So Kelly, did you choose acting as your career, and how did you break into it? I know you went into this deep when I had you on my podcast, and you just have some incredible stories about rejection, and they're so authentic. So would love to hear you share some of those too.
Yeah, I mean, I think any profession, I mean, I chose acting because I just love people, and I was always a people watcher and curious about why we do what we do. I mean, I had thought about being a journalist a little bit and sort of telling people stories and interviewing people, because I'm always just curious, why we do what we do, why we make the choices we make. But I really fell in love with acting and thought that would be a great way to also show our humanity and discover more myself about our humanity, and express things that maybe I couldn't express in another job. So, and to do something that would always be really fulfilling and interesting to me, and I could always grow and learn and meet new people and all of that. So yeah, I think there is a level of this word that we've come up with called rejection. There's a sound thing.
Can everyone just make sure that they're on mute?
Oh,
yeah. Patricia, can you make sure that you're on mute?
Okay. So fun. Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
I know, right? So yeah, so I think with anything, I mean, there is an element of that. And certainly in the beginning, you don't realize, or at least I didn't realize it as much, that I was really being guided and protected along the way as well. And I think there's a certain amount of trust that comes, and also a certain amount of planning that's involved, in terms of navigating rejection. So I think the more that and this is at least what I've learned over the years, that the more we know what we want, we visualize it, we write about it, we, vision board it, the more opportunities sort of come our way that are aligned with us. And so there's less rejection along the way. Or when it does happen, you realize, oh, okay, it's because this other thing is supposed to happen, which has happened many times in my career. So I certainly learned to trust over the years.
I've always thought to myself, rejection is just redirection. Every no is a yes in 2 years, and definitely in entertainment. I think that you can certainly prove that in every facet, because you just have to go through the motions of it on and on. I think we'll probably take the first few questions after like the first 3 slides. So you guys put them in there. How did you navigate rejection in the early days, and has it shifted to how you deal with it now?
Yeah, I mean, now I really don't see it. I just don't even acknowledge it anymore, because I just know there's another opportunity coming, and I just need to take a deep breath and also, daydream more and visualize and allow it to come in more, because the thing is, I mean, if we're not always going to be on, we're not always going to be on our game perfect. That's what I love about what you show in all of your social media and who you are. It's like, here I am, I invite you to love everything about me regardless,
Yes, I know.
and that's such a beautiful way to approach life. And it also is, it's disarming to others, and it allows others to immediately meet you where you are and meet you, or meet themselves that way. So yeah, I think if you love something, and, it's like with anything, you could say dating, right? If you go on dating, who gets rejected at the end of the day? It's not really about that, is it? It's an
No.
energy exchange, and you either align with each other's energy or you don't. And the sooner you learn to listen to that, the better your life will be. Well, it's the same with acting, it's the same with business, anything. The sooner you realize, okay, this is energetically doesn't feel right for me, and stop forcing it to be right for you when it's not, in any aspect of your life, the better.
Mhm.
And the more specific you are, about what it is you want, the better.
When you're rejected now, do you have an almost, I mean, I'm assuming it doesn't really phase you in any capacity, but even throughout your career, is there any auto response? Is there like something that you remember that you've said back to someone that you feel like you handled rejection properly in that way that you would want, the young woman on this call to kind of follow?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the question is more, are we rewarding ourselves for showing up? I remember I used to go on auditions, and sometimes I would take a friend with me and say, well, I have this audition, but let's go for lunch after, or let's go to a movie, or let's go get ice cream, or let's go do something. So I knew she was waiting in the car, and I would go in, do my thing, and then immediately got in the car with, and just, because again, it's energy, right? So I always had something to look forward to, so that I wasn't driving home going, oh my God, what did I do? What did I say? And then, my mother and I were talking recently about this, and she was saying the times that she would go with me because we were going to go shop or go to lunch or run errands or whatever. She'd say, I'd always get in the car and go, oh my God, that was so bad. I was so bad. I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I said this. And then I'd get the call, and sometimes I'd get the job when I thought I did the worst ever, right? Or that I just, so this is the point, is that we don't really, do we really know? Do we, sometimes you go in and think you've done the silliest thing, and you end up, they love it. So the thing is to be happy either way. That's
Mhm.
really the bottom line, right? Is that to trust yourself, trust the universe, trust that yes, of course, if you could look back and say, oh, okay, I could probably do that better, or I could have done that better. Okay. That's normal. That's healthy to say, okay, next time I go in, I want to feel a little more confident, or a little more in my body, or I want to be a little more prepared. Those are all just things that are, normal for anything, right?
Grasshoppers, doesn't it make you guys feel so good that this idol is literally saying she's got in the car and felt like she did something wrong? It makes it feel
Oh
so
my God.
reassuring to remember that, like, anyone out there on social media, anyone you see is also just human and has the same feelings that everyone else does. So there's a push to see all the feedback and rejection as an opportunity for development. Would you say that you agree with this?
What does that mean? What do you mean?
Like, do you agree that, getting feedback from people, constructive criticism should help shape you and not make you want to stop pursuing what it is that you're pursuing?
Feedback and criticism are really interesting, because depending on who they're coming from, they're helpful or they're not helpful, right? So this is where, again, it's really important for us to pick and choose who we're getting that criticism from and what we really believe to be true ourselves. I mean, you could have like a very high powered person giving you criticism,
Yeah.
and yet go, it doesn't feel right to me. I'm going to continue to be who I need to be, right? Because for whatever reason, just because that's how you choose to express yourself. I mean, if every
Sure.
artist or every inventor or whatever took criticism from somebody, they may not have continued with their invention or their, that's what I mean. You've got to be careful with that as well, because people are much quicker to criticize and tell you what you need to do than they are to sort of, sometimes, not always,
Mm-hmm.
say,
Okay.
hey, that, because there's always room. There's always room. And we generally know, if we walk out of a room, we generally know if we did great or we didn't do great
Yeah.
but yes, I mean, I think from experts in their field, it's great to get advice. Yeah. Or
And
to,
even the most successful people for sure have, moments where they still need to do better and grow and be stronger. I mean, no one's
always.
successful. I don't know if you can agree with this. Yeah, no one's successful literally just gets to the top and is like, okay, this is it. Like, I'm moving on now to the boring part of life. I think that's almost when it starts.
Yeah, we're just ever learning. I mean, ever growing, ever changing. Nothing
Mhm.
stays the same. No relationship stays the same. No job stays. Nothing. Where it's always, and there are times you may feel like you've even gone backwards. But it doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
what matters is that you get up the next day, you have your coffee, and you just keep going. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
I could definitely do better. And you have a bit of a sense of humor about it, because I think we've all gotten so serious about
Yeah.
all this stuff and lost the sort of human element and the, Sex in the City version of your life element, of like, I don't have it all together, but I'm trying, I'm doing my best. And the key is
Mhm.
to do your best. And I think my generation might have been a little different too, because we didn't have all the distractions that you guys have. I mean, you have so much
Yeah.
information coming at you, so many people telling you how to do something, so much to live. I don't know. It's like there's just so much to and so many distractions from you, from
Yeah.
going
No, it's
within, from
overwhelming.
going within you and even listening to you, So
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
Yeah.
yeah.
Kelly, you're sort of hitting on something, and you mentioned this before with like censoring the feedback that comes in, or determining whose feedback is important or not. How do you do that, and how do you stay true to yourself if, for example, it is the professor who's monitoring your thesis, or if it is your boss, your manager? Obviously those are that's important feedback, but sometimes your manager's not always the the end all be all. So how do you deal with deciding whose feedback to take and who is important to trust?
Well, I mean, look, I mean, if it's like, okay, I've got to listen to this professor because they're giving me information that's going to help me pass something or help me get from A to B, that's one thing, that's like, okay, thanks for that information. But it's another thing. I think we have, this is where going in and knowing yourself and listening to yourself is something to develop alongside all of these things, right? Because then you start to kind of go, does that feel right to me, or does that not feel right to me? And you learn to trust that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if a director comes over and says, I need you to hit this mark to find your light, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to hit that mark to find my light. I'm not really going to question that direction, right? But if I intuitively want to go in a direction and that director is sending me in a very different direction, there's something in me that's going to go, that doesn't feel right to me. So that's the difference, right? If it's just a basic, okay, boom, boom, boom from A to B, but if it's something that's really a bigger decision or a bigger choice or a bigger thing in your life, it is important to sort of, and we learn by not listening. You learn by doing what the director says, even though it's completely off what you feel, and then watching it and going, oh my God, but then there's times they tell you that and you feel, and then it turns out great. So this is where the life is not, it's not like, it's learning. It's going with the energy. It's hard to explain, but I hope I'm explaining it. But you learn to know the difference. And sometimes you say to the director, okay, let's do 2 takes. Let's do it completely that way. But then can we also do one where, I feel totally, this is what, I want to. And you can do that in business too. You can say, okay, look, or anything you're doing, So it's alchemy, isn't it? Over time. And it's experience. It's experience. Learning to trust yourself.
Totally. Yeah. I love it. Okay, let's have 3 people do like their hand raise on, we'll take the first 3 questions and then we'll go to the chat. So if anyone has a question right now, just raise your hand on like your Zoom profile, whatever. I'm scrolling through.
Sonia, you have one. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask?
Yeah, I just posted it in the chat. So my question, so whenever you received a no without like a specific reason, if you have a general email that you received that's basically saying, okay, it's a no, dude, it's not a good fit at this time. Did you ever ask why to help you understand why you got rejected? Like just reach out to the person and just be like, hey, I got a rejection, like or a no, a decline. Can you tell me why? Did you ever do that?
I mean, sure, if you really want to know, I think it's helpful. I mean, and if you think it would be good for you, if you're kind of feeling like, you know what, I'm not in a state right now, I haven't had my coffee, or I'm not in the mood to sort of hear what's wrong. That's what I do now, really, is I just go, or I say, this is a sign, this isn't right for me. I'm going to just keep going, but it can be, if you really feel like, hey, you're in a space where you can just sort of hear it without it really getting to you one way or the other, and you can just take it in sort of a neutral way, I think, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Anyone else want to raise their hand? Okay, Anna, we can do you first.
Did you ever reach a point in your career where like every day started to seem the same, or like maybe you got bored of what you were doing acting, or tired of that sort of like success and wanted to try something new? And like, how did you kind of figure out what was your next step?
Oh yeah, I felt that so many times. I mean, I have felt like I wanted to quit so many times, and I even took some time off of acting and just, but then of course I got called back into it because I was listening to myself, So I think a lot of it is just listening to yourself. And of course you're going to have days and you're going to have moments where, and again, like, it's because probably you're growing and you're evolving and you're changing and you need that moment, and sometimes it's really creating space for something new to come in. We go and think we have to just be all these things, and sometimes it's just getting quiet, and whether it's meditating or writing or taking a walk or taking a vacation or whatever it is, and stepping back and regrouping, and it's good to question if this is what we want to do. And I mean, it doesn't always make you happy. I mean, it's work sometimes, at the end of the day. I mean, my 18-hour days, my whole life, I've worked 12, 18-hour days, and, it's a lot. And there were friends that were having fun parties, and there were big, people doing fun things. And I was on set, or I'd make a dinner plan and they'd change the schedule, or I had kids at home and I'd tell them I'd be there. And then it's just, so this is the thing. It's more, how do we balance ourselves in this ever changing world, right? And even our own ever changing desires. So that all of that's okay. And to leave space for all of that stuff is okay. And the real question is, what are we doing day to day that brings us joy, regardless of our boyfriend or our work or any of these other things, right? Because that's where you're going to want to retreat to when any of those things get complicated, when your teenagers start doing things and you feel so out of control, like and just pray, how do you do it? How do you get through it? I don't know. I'm going to, so you have to find that place within yourself that feels like home and that's safe. And whether that's creating rituals that do that for you, that get you through these changes or these rejections or these, because it's like, how do we find our center through everything in our life, through all the changes in our life? That's the bigger question. Because then it just becomes a rejection, or it becomes a breakup, or it becomes this, and you learn to sort of at least have a place to go within yourself that you feel safe and good.
Love it. Nu, I saw that you also had your hand up, and then we'll go back to the PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. First of all, it's a pleasure, Kelly, to be here with you today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I do have a question. So how can you not let these rejections define you? And when I say this, I don't mean it on a conceptual level, but I do mean about that example you just mentioned, when you were in a car after an audition that didn't necessarily go your way, and you knew that a lot of time rejections or acceptances come from that first impression. So let's say you haven't performed the way you wanted to. How can you kind of go back and re-alter that first impression that got you that rejection and kind of, I don't know, turn it into something else, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think like we just always are it's like we have to adjust and grow. Not every single moment of our life is going to be perfect, or not every moment of our life are we going to be perfect for someone else, right? But it's how we recover from those moments. It's saying, I mean, look, I've done scenes. I did scenes on Gossip Girl where I drove home and went, oh my God, that's what the scene was about. And I'd already filmed it, right? Like, oh my God, how did I miss that? Like, how did I not? Do you think, did anyone notice? No, nobody noticed. I noticed, right? So there are or I was so tired, or I had been up nursing my child all night and had 4 hours sleep and showed up and had to work this 12 hours. So did anybody, but we do. And we're much harder on ourselves than anyone else, right? So the thing is to know that who cares? Who cares at the end of the day? Do you know what I mean? The only thing that matters is that you like you and you care for you and you're doing things in your life. It doesn't mean you don't go, okay, I could have done better. Let's just think about that for a minute. How could I maybe have done this better? But there's so much more that goes into things. And the harder we are on ourselves, the worse things seem to get. So it's almost like you can acknowledge it and say, okay, it would have been interesting if I had kind of made that acting choice, but I didn't. But what, I'm still sitting here, like, nobody spontaneously combusted. The world is still spinning. You all didn't know so unless it's a huge, huge thing. And even then you can call and say, look, hey guys, I was in kind of a whatever state. If you guys are seeing people again, love to come back in. And in a very light way, not in just in a, hey, I was going through something, or I felt like I could have done that better. And sometimes they'll say, great, come back in. Sometimes they'll say, oh no, that's okay. That's okay too. I mean, I had things that I auditioned for that I just kept going back in saying, oh, no, I can do this. I really can. And they'd be like, no. And then let's say I didn't get the job, but then I got something so much better a month later. And I was like, oh my God, thank God, even though I was feeling like, God, what am I doing? Why am I not doing this? I feel like I'm doing the best I can do. Or, so that's my point, is that it doesn't, at the end of the day, you end up where you're supposed to be. And the more, yeah, you acknowledge, okay, that could have been better. And in what way? Okay, it could have been better in this way. Okay. But it's like going back through every relationship you've had and saying, I could have been this, I could have done that. I could, like, okay, who cares? Just get on to the next thing. It's healthy that we look at ourselves and, you know, we're aware, we're self-aware. But beyond that, get back to the drawing board, you know, because there's so many, we have infinite possibilities. You know, we're much more than we've been told that we are as beings. So align with that aspect of yourself, the infinite side of yourself, the infinite possibilities. Write about how you have infinite possibilities and opportunities. So you're not defined by one. So this one didn't work out, whatever. Okay. Yeah, move on. There's infinite possibilities for you out there, for all of us out there. And we can co-create them. The more we co-create those opportunities, the better, you know. And we co-create by the vision board and the writing about what we want, you know. I'm an actress, I'm in demand. I'm, you know, critically acclaimed. I'm working, I'm prospering. I'm, you know, I have many opportunities. So this is inviting in and working with the co-creation of your, you know, without having to define it too heavily. I mean, and then I could say, okay, these are the kind of roles now that I'd really love to do. And you could do the same with whatever profession, you know, you're in.
That's actually a great takeaway. It would be awesome if every one of you after this went and did that, you know, wrote like your 5 I ams that you're envisioning for the future as if they're right now. I think that's a really inspiring thing to do, and would obviously love to have you guys share that in the Slack as well. So I guess we'll get into the next question here just because of time. Kelly, how important is it to really essentially work hard to get to the top? I mean, I know at this point in this day and age, it's so different than when you were becoming successful in your rise to success, because social media, it wasn't so easy to literally post nothing and all of a sudden you've amassed this following. So how important is it to really not focus on that overnight fame and really put in the work?
Yeah, I believe that it's an ongoing, evolving adventure. And if you just see it that way, you know, really. And sometimes it turns out much better than you ever imagined, and sometimes it doesn't, you know. So, and I think this idea of working hard is great, but it's also important to, again, co-create. The more specific you are in your, even just alignment to the feeling of what you want things to be like in your life, you know, just that. I mean, and this is again part of getting quiet or having a vision board, because it narrows the field down for you, you know. I hope I'm making sense. Sometimes I just think
No,
I
it
talk
does.
and I'm like, am I making any sense? So yeah, because I mean, working hard is super important, you know, but to me, like, working hard is something that doesn't feel like a lot of working hard, because it's something you really enjoy doing, right? So most of the time it should feel kind of fun too, you know. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're not working hard, but and how do you make that fun for yourself? Like, I mean, sometimes even just sitting down to do my bills or do something I kind of don't want to do, I think, okay, how do I make this fun? I got to light a candle, make my coffee, you know, put whatever, you just like, how do I create the environment in which that can be joyful or fun,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's hard, right?
It's kind of like a mental game I've started. My boyfriend's like obsessed with money and investing and all this stuff. So he's got me like reading these books and whatnot. And honestly, after reading enough of it, I've actually become obsessed with money to where I'm like waking up excited to call the credit card to like get a lower interest. And I'm like, if you actually just kind of switch your mindset to almost that I am really wealthy or I am really successful, some of these more minor tasks that are just monotonous become so not as boring. But tell us about your new startup. I know when I met you, you're working on another incredible startup and you've now pivoted and moved to a startup that is just so up your alley. So would love to hear you chime in on why this company.
Yeah, I met these two young guys. I think they're 26, and they asked me to get involved. And originally it was going to be a streaming platform. And actually they just asked me to come and be on the streaming platform or on an episode, because originally it was going to be more of a, kind of biography or like a masterclass type thing. And I said, gosh, this sounds great. Do you want me to help you like get people involved or get, and so that's how it started, was just me having sort of a vision of how this could go and the opportunities maybe I could bring to them. And then it became an app. So, and then we went out and pitched it, and then it took a minute, and then it became an app, which I think is a much sort of better way. And for a lot of us, doing a podcast and then YouTube and then Instagram, all these different platforms in which you're working, and ideally Wiser, which is what this platform is, WHYZZER, is where you can sort of pull all those together. And for someone like myself, who's not a super techie, I mean, I can kind of do certain things, but not, it would make it very easy for a creator to create all their content in one place. So short form content, long form content, and again, be able to monetize in the way that it's on some of the other platforms you can, but also be able to share it, which all of us here right now are interested in so many different things. And if we could follow each other and learn about what each other is learning about, which we don't always talk to each other about, like after this, I could follow all of you, not knowing maybe all of your backgrounds or what you're interested in learning about, and I would learn so much more. So it's sort of, how do we share knowledge? And, because on Instagram, I mean, we share maybe our business, we share maybe some photos of whatever we're doing, some food, some whatever. And then, but are we really sharing knowledge? So that's to me what's been kind of missing in the social media world. So that's why I got really excited about joining and partnering and co-creating with them.
So Kelly, just so we understand the logistics of it, do you share white papers? Do you share opinions? Is it, photos, all of the above? Your website?
It's really it's content driven. So it's so creative. So experts in any field can come on and share in the same way, in a bit of the way you would do a master class, right? Or a podcast. And there's, we're obviously fundraising right now and building it out. You can go download it in the Apple store, but we aren't up and running yet. And we now have creators on there, sort of testing it out and seeing all the things that we can do to make it the best when we launch. But, one of the things that I said would be really interesting is just being able to sort of monetize lives, all the things we're doing for free, that experts are doing for free.
Yeah.
To be able to monetize those. So, and in one place. So that's really the goal. So it's not a place like TikTok or a place like, it's really for experts in their fields, just specifically. And it will be in the beginning sort of more recommended by the community to be able to be a part of it or creator.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, everyone after this, go and download it. I know it's not officially up yet, but I will certainly be doing that.
Yes.
So that's super cool. I'm excited for you because that's something that's new, and especially probably working with two guys. I bet that's a little bit, different in the tech space because it's a totally different ball game than entertainment. That's what I've realized about the whole tech industry. It's just a totally different life.
I know I've been speaking at these tech conferences, and it is and it isn't. It's really fun though. It's a fun group. It's a really smart group of people. I love it.
So what are you learning about rejection and feedback from embarking on this so far? I know that you said that you went through the raise, so you've raised money for the app, which I think also I want to clarify. I think a lot of people don't realize that even people who have money still raise money. I think it doesn't mean that your app is any less successful or your idea is just because you're raising money. It's quite the opposite. So just for anyone who's kind of getting into the startup space, that even very successful entrepreneurs pursue, VC for the experience and the connections and whatnot. But what have you learned so far from this?
A lot of it has just been dealing with people, a lot of it's just been dealing with people in different ways. And certainly the startup world is new to me, and fundraising is new to me, and all of that. So it's been a huge learning curve. And the guys have been very patient explaining everything to me. So it's good. But yeah, it's really an opportunity to learn. It's and listen. It's a lot of just listening and and it's interesting to apply what I've learned from my world, or just in general as a woman out in the world, to what we're doing. So I think a lot of things is just realizing what resources you bring to something, and being able to work with the team, and stay open. That's all. Stay open, but also kind of what I've realized are the different resources, which is really fun, and we all have them, right? So how do we use our yeah.
From an employer's perspective, what are you looking for in a colleague, and what type of skills or workplace etiquette are you hoping to see? Now, I would even tailor this question to say, when you're perhaps hiring for any of your startups, what are you looking for? When you decided to partner with these co-founders, what about them stood out to you to be good business partners?
Yeah, I just, they just kept showing up and being super professional, right? So to me, that was really great. I mean, and very much themselves. They really, over time, they are who they say they are. And that's really important to me, because I've been in other situations where that wasn't true over time. So I think, yeah, because it's at the end of the day, it's your reputation. So whoever you're partnering with, you've got, and with anyone you're working with, you have to just sort of say, okay, I'm going to partner with these people, and do I trust them in terms of where this is all going? And I do think it's just showing up and being professional in any business. It just is. It's showing up with integrity, efficiency, acceptance, sort of openness to learning and growing. And
what is the most unprofessional behavior, if you could think of one thing that you've seen on set or in your career?
I feel like the most important thing really is just gratitude, and I think looking for the good. Do you know what I mean? I think, somebody that shows up and is gracious and kind, I think that's we're missing a little bit of that. So I think appreciation is amazing, for each other, for the work that we're doing, because I think those are the things that get you through the ups and downs, right, of a business or growing a business. Is I don't know. I'm not very corporate, ladies, so I'm not going to give you a real corporate answer. I don't know. I know that there are like corporate women that would come and be like, okay, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm not. My world hasn't been very corporate. I've been, I go on film sets but I can tell you that, it is about professionalism at the end of the day. No matter, as an actor, I have to show up and be professional. I have to show up on time. I have to, be workable, be open, bring something to the party. and, yeah, and have a good attitude and have, all those things. So those, I think they're the same thing in any profession. Um, and again, being in a new profession, it doesn't matter how old you are, because I'm, 54 and this is all new to me, what I'm doing. So I think it's also being, so it's no different. I'm going into a world that I know very little about, and I'm speaking on it. So that's even more like, so I have to find, my own, authenticity in that, and be able to be open and just ask the questions and learn about the things I don't know about, and, hopefully add by bringing the things that through life experience or through my own learning I can offer as resources.
And I urge all of you guys on this call that if you never have the answer to something, to be honest that you don't have the answer to something. A lot of people will try and come up with the answer and then jump to it, and then they're kind of frazzled, and it's way cooler to just be like, I actually don't know, can you clarify this? Or I don't know the answer, but I would love to learn. And that's something that's really important for job interviews as well. But we have about 10 more minutes, so we'll get into these tips and then get into the rest of the questions. So 5 tips for receiving feedback. Kelly, do you want to walk us through these, or I can walk through some of them too?
Oh yeah, you walk through them. You're good
Okay,
at this.
so number 1, and we talked to you before, Heather did. So I'll walk you guys through them. Number 1, don't take
Okay.
anything personally. Think of how you brought intention with what you're wanting. Decide either way you are going to do something nice for yourself for showing up. I love this. Even when I embark in anything and think I'm going to get rejected, I always have one goal that I want from it. And I think it's a really great way to look at it. And then visualize and create vision boards and write about what you're wanting to see more of in your life, and think of it as much as possible as already happening. And that's exactly what Kelly said about kind of doing the I am, and that is almost like your vision board. And you guys can certainly do that in a notebook too. So all right guys, let's finish out with Q&A. I can't see the chat, so Heather, walk us through the Q&A. If not, then everyone also, if you have put a question in the chat, maybe you can also raise your hand on here, or if you just in general want to ask a question, if you can raise your hand as well.
Yeah, Bree's got a question here. Bree, do you want to ask it, or would you prefer I do? All right, I'll ask. Kelly, how did you stay motivated when you just started acting? And as a new business, I sometimes compare myself too much and feel a little defeated. I think we all do. What is your best advice?
Well, I would treat myself to things. I've always been a big believer in that. So to answer sort of the first part of the question, and I would read biographies, and I would do things, I think like you've got to stay inspired. I mean, you've got to keep your, read biographies about people that do what you do and have been successful, but anyone that's been successful at anything, that you like, right, that you align with. And competition's always going to be there. I mean, I would have friends that would be in the same room competing for the role that, we were good friends. So, I think at some point, and that goes the same with businesses, right? I mean, I think the smart things to learn from each other. So if there's a business over there that's doing well, go, what are they doing? What are they doing that I could implement into my business, right? So any form of sort of envy or jealous, any of that in your life, whether it's personal, professional, whatever, it's to say, oh, okay, what are they doing that I want more of in my life? And then honor that in yourself, honor that I want more of that in my life, and it's the same. If we did that with the educational system, what systems are doing well and implemented it. So this is something that globally we should be doing. This is something personally, which is seeing what other people are doing and saying, okay, where can I have that benefit my business?
Great. Any other questions? There isn't anything in the chat, I don't believe, so feel free to put your hands up or.
Barbara, I see that your hand is up.
Oh,
Do you want
great.
to come off mute or put it in the chat?
Hi, yes,
Hi.
Barbara. First of all, I want to say thank you so much. This has been so informative and so helpful.
Okay.
I think I really love when Kelly spoke about just creating an environment for you where you can kind of have those affirmations and kind of repeat what you really want to see come into life. That's actually what I've been working on, and it really, really does work. But my question is, when you're building yourself or rebuilding yourself and you're working on the vision boards and things are falling together, sometimes you lose your circle or the people that you were very close with on your previous chapter. So how do you balance that kind of change? Because sometimes we create attachments with people that we're close to, and maybe directions are changing. You're no longer the same. You no longer like the same things, and now you're on to like a different path and discovering yourself. How do you like gracefully move into that next chapter without feeling guilty?
Sometimes you don't have to even say anything. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it's just your lives go in different directions. You still love each other. It doesn't change the fact that you are friends or were friends, or maybe you're still friends, but you're just not as close because they're doing their thing, you're doing your thing, right? So it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It can just be a natural flow of life. But it does happen more and more. And, I don't know. I mean, I've found that my circle has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller over the years just because of bandwidth of time. I think we're all that way, where you just don't have the bandwidth to be everything to everyone. So, it doesn't mean you don't write them a text every once in a while and say, thinking of you, hope you're doing well. you know I think people get kind of used to that are busy and working, and um and bless everyone along the way, because you know there are people that come into your lives for certain reasons and then they go out of your life for whatever the reason, and the key is just to appreciate the time that you had together. um it's pretty normal. I mean, you live long enough, it's pretty normal to do that. But I love that aspect that you were talking about, the spiritual aspect or the affirmations and all of that, because I do believe it's helpful. And there's great books like Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain. The woman who started Net-a-Porter said that book is what inspired her to start Net-a-Porter. So a lot of the inspiration for anything we do can come from something like that. So there's The Artist Way by Julia Cameron, which is a wonderful book. There's Creative Visualization. That's a wonderful book. There's so many wonderful books out there too that are just fun to do. And that, just help us or inspire us even more. So
Kelly, we have one last question for you, and I know we're nearing the end
And if
here.
anyone wants to come on and say like just hi to her or thank you or anything as well, feel free to just chime in at the end. But yeah, Heather, go ahead.
Yeah, Alexis, did you want to ask your question?
Sure. My question is really, it's more of a fun question, but sometimes we can be so hard on ourselves along, our journey. And you talked about how it's important to just be kind to yourself and really take care of yourself along the way. What has been one of your greatest escapes or kind of most treasured gift that you've given yourself along the way?
I think time for myself, just honestly, just alone time. I really enjoy it. And whether I take myself shopping, whether I go to the market, whether I'm doing my laundry, whether I'm, it's not, we're being fed that it's all about a bubble bath and getting our, it's it's also going within and walking in nature. It's just being who you want to be for you for a minute of the day. You know, we're all like being pulled, you know, in so many different directions now. I mean, my TV never gets turned on. I barely listen to music. I barely watch TV, if ever. My brother actually took my TV because he said, you never use your TV. So he took my TV. My last mover took the TV before, because I just don't watch TV. Because unless it's like, I just watch The Empress actually, because I have a TV here, but unless it's something like that, that's really beautiful, because there's so much stuff now that's so dark and so heavy on TV, you know, that it's just watch what you're engaging with, you know, and how it makes you feel. And if it makes you feel sad and depressed, music, you know, half the time, if I listen to Adele, I joke about it just for years, I just start crying. It's so it's okay a little bit, all this stuff, but I mean, the key is to really just do the things that you love to do. If it's going for a massage, if it's just doing nothing, build an altar, you know, light. For me, I love to light beeswax candles every day. I get up, I light beeswax candles. I do my angel cards, these little rituals that connect you with you. And I believe one of the secrets that you know, people talk about it, it's just, we're all sitting on a pot of gold. And we're not told we're sitting, and meanwhile we're asking for money. Do you know what I'm saying? So the key is that you already have every single thing you need. I used to write about, okay, what if I have every single thing I want? Now what am I going to want to do? And that's it. If you have everything, if you made a list of every single thing you want, every single thing, and tomorrow it was given to you, then what would you want to do? You know? And that's how you go back to yourself. That's when you go back in. The thing is, we all have this sort of home frequency within us, which is unique to each and every one of us. And it's so comforting when you connect with it. And what it does is it makes all these other things that are happening outside of you not as important, because they aren't. Everything you see has been created through somebody's mind and vision of it. It wouldn't be unless it was visualized and created within ourselves first. So even if you want to feel better, you go within and say, I'm asking for an improvement around this, and it will show up. I mean, the biggest thing that's going on right now, I see, is that we've been told we're something that we're not. We're infinite beings, and we're here to love, and we're here to connect. And a lot of what's being programmed right now and being put in the world is really to distract us from that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, do what you love. Do what you love. I want to reach through and give you a hug, by the way. You just want to reach through and hug her? Like she's the kind of person, like they're literally, like if I saw her, I'd be like, I have to hug her. All of you. Yeah, it's true.
Oh
We think, you know, it's.
I'm giving you air hugs from Austin.
Okay. Yeah, you're all so beautiful and wonderful. And, you know, the thing is to have fun. I think it's just have fun, you know, and even if you're at work and it seems whatever, do what it takes to light up that desk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what can it take to bring joy to that desk? Because look, it was a Dalai Lama said, somebody said something to the effect that we can't really help others until we help ourselves, right? We can't really turn the light on in somebody else's life until we turn our own lights on. And we're really here just to give that light to the world. That's it. The money's going to go. We're going to get older. I mean, look, I'm wearing glass, I'm like, you get older, life changes, just enjoy each day. Honestly, just enjoy each day. And if there's rejection, there's rejection. Who cares? And if there's this day, because every day is going to be something different. Some days I wake up and I'm like, gosh, my elbow is like, but I'm old enough to know, that's going to go away. I used to freak out. And now I'm like, oh, no. Now it's over here, or now it's this, or now it's that. And, it's just life, right? And then it works its way through. These things work their way through. And they're scary sometimes, and they're very real, right? When they're happening. But the key is just to enjoy every single day in whatever way, whether it's just getting up and having your coffee and that's enjoyable, or creating rituals for yourself that are enjoyable, books that you can go back to and read a couple of pages and be like, oh, okay, that one friend you can call and just talk to, all those little things add up to so much,
Well, if everyone can give Kelly a round of applause, this has been, I think, one of our most highly favorite so far 2023 talks. Kelly, any last words before we end our final virtual event for the year?
Yeah, just Happy New Year. Have a beautiful holiday, everyone. And thank you. This was so fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for always being
Yeah.
such a darling. And
Yeah.
to everyone else who was a part, thank you guys so much. This video will also be on the back end of Grasshopper, so you can always rewatch it if you want, or post it. And then if you're in Austin, our December event is tomorrow, and then we'll be back again with Sarah Harden. Sorry, Wednesday. Tomorrow, I'm in Barcelona, so it's Tuesday now. Sorry. Our January event with the CEO of Hello Sunshine, Sarah Harden, is January 17th. So it'll be similar to this. And again, thank you guys all so much. And Kelly, you are just amazing. So hopefully see you soon and I can take you to lunch.
You too. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Bye.